as we've my latest web memo will be up on the website, the heritage.org website this afternoon. It's currently being edited, but I will want to discuss this afternoon 4 issues that Congress and the public really should hone in on as they think about and start to digest what General Petraeus and my old boss, Ambassador Crocker, talked about yesterday and are talking about today. First of all, let me talk about what's most important on people's minds. That is the surge. How has the surge been effective, and what can we conclude about what the surge has done? Well, let me begin by giving you a little bit of the history of how we came to think about the surge and the strategy behind the surge. Because actually the beginnings of the surge, you may have thought previously, was based on what happened just at the end of last year and early this year. But really we started toying with the idea of a surge-like strategy back last summer during the second phase of the Baghdad security plan. You might remember back then we talked about a clear, hold, and build strategy for certain neighborhoods within Baghdad which were particularly violent. And what did we find from that strategy? We found that if you could put enough troops in local areas that were hotspots, like the Masafia neighborhood in Dora, which is in the south area of Baghdad, or the Shab-Ur area, which is in the north part of Baghdad, both very violent areas where car bombs, small arms fire, and other ordnance go off on a very regular basis. Now, if we could flood those areas with enough troops and literally have troops on just about every corner, we go raid insurgent safe houses in those areas and clear them out of insurgents. Yes, indeed, we can find areas of safety, areas we can make safe for the time that we are there. In fact, what I found in my statistical analysis, since I was essentially the chief statistician for Ambassador Crocker for the year, is that if you put that kind of troop presence in an area, yes, indeed, violence will go down, and we found that attacks went down, civilian casualties went down, and so forth over the 2 or 3 weeks that we would spend in those areas. But then we simply moved on from those areas because we didn't have enough troops to have blanket coverage over the city, or certainly over large parts of the city. And so what happened was the insurgents simply came back, which gave rise to this whack-a-mole type analysis that we saw a lot of people clue in on, that yes, we could clear and hold while we were in an area, but you cannot build unless you have that sort of troop presence there on a more consistent basis. So during that time, which again was mid to late summer last summer, it was about the time I arrived, we started looking at this, we began to realize that if we could do that sort of strategy on a broader level, in order to do that, we would have to increase the number of brigade combat teams available to conduct those sorts of operations on a more systemic level. And we came to that conclusion by the time the end of the year happened. And during the end of the year in 2006, we found that violence rates were not only unacceptably high, but growing, that there were more civilian casualties. So we found that Shia death squads were operating with impunity, not just in Baghdad, but other areas, that Sunni insurgents, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, the 1920s Revolutionary Brigade, the Islamic Jihad of Iraq and some other groups were being able to operate on an unacceptably high level, that we simply needed more troops. And the December Joint Campaign Plan review that my office was doing, and our counterparts in the military, we found that we simply had to change strategy in order to put more troops on the ground in the neighborhoods, which gave rise to the President's announcement in January that we needed to have a new way forward. That new way forward was to surge, and in order to have that surge, we needed the best counterinsurgency expert that we have in the United States brought to Baghdad. Therefore, we brought General Petraeus, and to move from what our strategy was before, which was transition to the Iraqis, to more of a population security type of strategy, where instead of being on our forward operating bases, on places like Camp Victory, which is a large sprawling base by the Baghdad International Airport, and other FOBs as they're called, that we would have joint security stations where we would co-locate with Iraqi Army, Iraqi police units, that we would work side by side with them, live with them, sleep with them, interact with the population together, and give them what I like to describe as on-the-job training, and build up their capabilities, noting that if we can get the Iraqis up to speed, that they can act, not only that we can have basically a dual-pronged approach. One, that their abilities would be strengthened, and that two, they would act as a force multiplier. Because if we can work together with Iraqi forces, we know that they're not quite as good as American troops yet, but that they can help us provide security better. And that strategy has been effective. We can see, and you can see in the slides accompanying General Petraeus' comments, that virtually every metric of population security in the past many weeks now has improved. Security incidents are down in 8 of the last 12 weeks. The last 2 weeks of data that he presented showed security incidents at their lowest levels since early summer of 2006. Yes, they remain unacceptably high. Yes, we still have some ways to go, but it's certainly much better than it was. And for really any group to impugn that those statistics are not realistic is simply not true. And I can tell you this from personal experience, dealing with the numbers, looking at Iraqi numbers, looking at coalition statistics that are collected, and so forth.